Hey yo, Impact Zone fam, how's it going? I know you've seen the title and the thumbnail, so you know what this video is about, but I've got to say it anyway because, well, it's part of the on-ramp here in making these videos and whatnot. So, but yes, today here we are talking about attention economy. And that's kind of probably a bit of a weird sounding phrase or set of words, perhaps in some sense, but I think you all know what I mean. The ADHD kind of issues that are out there in wrestling. And I've talked about those sorts of things here and there before as well, but I think it is important, especially nowadays, for wrestling bookers and wrestlers and whatnot, the agents or whatever else is involved in making matches, to realize, yeah, people have shorter attention spans on average, and we need to make these things, like, if you're going to have a 20-minute match, you can't have a 20-minute match of all rest holds or whatever and all this sort of thing. I don't want to say that they shouldn't ever be like rest holds or whatever else, this sort of thing or whatnot. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm trying to say. I am trying to say that you need to realize the fandom has changed from where it was even a few years ago. And not everything needs to be, well, I don't want to say X Division style or Cruiserweight style or whatever else it is. No, absolutely not. But whatever you are doing in the match, has to be moving the match, so to speak. It has to be getting the match to the next point, to the next thing. There is too many times that I just see people be like, oh, I'll kick his leg or whatever or whatnot. Now I'll kick his arm. Now I'll kick this. Now I'll kick that. Whatever else it is. And if it's early match or something like that, maybe you can see some of that. That's obviously there's always the opposite end to the rule. There's no hard and fast rules if you follow what I mean. But saying, oh, I'm just gonna kick this leg. Oh, I'm just gonna kick the back. Oh, I'm just gonna kick the head. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. There's no focus there, bro. What are you doing? You're all over the place. And maybe I said, early match or whatever else it is, if you're fishing for a weakness or something like that, yeah, sure. Okay, that's fine. That's the sort of thing that you can do, obviously. You can do almost anything. But again, if you don't find a focus, in a sense, then it's just becomes very generic rest hold style stuff. You know what I mean? And this is oh, I'm going to grab a chin lock because, well, I don't know what else to get. If you had been saying, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this chin lock the thing. This is the thing I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to come back to. So I'm going to keep working the head. I'm going to keep working the head. I'm going to keep working the head. I'm going to keep coming back to this headlock. I'm going to keep, using, that as my, or, snap mirrors. I'm going to use all these sorts of things that work with the head and all of this sort of stuff. So I'm going to use the head as the driving tool. And you can pick any body part effectively or whatever, or one sort of style of strategy or whatnot. That is fine. But again, just pick something in the match and say, okay, this is what I'm going for, or whatever, or even before the match, or even while you're, rehearsing the match, or, having somebody agent your match. And I think this is a big problem much more in WWE because of a lot of WWE matches are to the nth degree, you breathe here and you exhale there, or you breathe in here, you exhale there, and you do this here and you do that there, you blink here, you do this here, you turn to that camera there, da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever else it is, all this stuff. It's very, very, very scripted. Whereas, TNA, the indies, this sort of thing isn't very scripted, and it isn't, I don't think it is meant to be so scripted. But I do think that a level of a script or a level of, you know, understanding that, especially with like some things, it's like you've got to know when your timings are, what's happening, when and why and where and how, all this sort of stuff. Especially like I'll reference this match. I've referenced this match a few times, but I'll re-reference it. The match that KC Navarro and AJ Francis were in, the ladder match at Slammiversary last year, I believe. They had to be out of that match in the first, like, whatever. Well, KC at least had to be out of that match in the first, like, 10, 15 minutes because he was seriously injured and he couldn't really do anything. So they decided, okay, we've got to get you through a table or a ladder or something really, really quickly so that we can, you know, effectively take you out of the match. But the match has to be sort of, you know, almost over at that point because otherwise, like, it looks too fake in some ways because people go through tables, people go through ladders, people go through this and that and whatever else it is all the friggin' time now. So understanding that, hey, if we put you through the ladder or whatever, we can't be standing around here for 20 more minutes having a match and having a match and having a match and people not expect you to come back in that match. So, yeah, we can't have you be lying around for too long. So we need to, not exactly immediately, but basically immediately get you out of the match and almost immediately, well, not exactly immediately, but we almost immediately need to then end the match so that the match is over so people can't go, well, why didn't Casey get up or whatever else it was, you know, that sort of thing. Because otherwise that ruins the illusion in some sense. And it also helped the Hardys because the Hardys, you know, can't have more than like a 10-minute match, you know, very easily. So again, it sort of helped both parties. It helped KC and it helped the Hardys who were going to win that night. So it was like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to win, you know, because that's what's, you know, what was designed. And we've just designed the match around, okay, we're going to do it as pretty quickly as possible, but also as spectacularly, hopefully, as possible. And that was actually a fairly decent match, though I do think, like, the Hardys shouldn't have been the ones, like, completely dominating everything or whatever else it was. I think that they should have had, but then again, perhaps that was because, again, like, they knew, hey, we can't really take real bumps or have somebody dive on us or whatever else it is and that sort of thing in this match, because otherwise it starts becoming like, well, you know, then we've got to be taken out longer than the person that we just took out, sort of thing, because otherwise that makes them look even weaker in a sense, you know what I mean? So, but again, you've got to realize that, again, that match was fairly smartly booked, even though that I can, you know, perhaps, you know, disagree with like some of it and say, hey, well, maybe you should have at least had something here, or you should have had, you know, AJ Francis in there a bit more and fighting a bit more, and the Hardys going through some more adversity or whatever else it was if they were going to win and things like that or whatnot, you know, but it is what it is at some points, you know, like, but again, that match fairly well represented or retained that, you know, that attention span that people sort of had because it was fairly short. It wasn't like 2 minutes or whatever. Obviously, I'm not saying that every match has to be under 5 minutes or has to be under 10 minutes or whatever. But everything that was happening, or almost everything that was happening in that match, was driving towards something, driving towards the finish. It wasn't just, you know, and obviously in a ladder match like that, that's sort of like the thing of that match. It's always driving towards the finish. People taking people out left, right, and center, and then people doing stuff to do that and whatnot. But again, that is what you need in every match. You cannot have the, like, and again, same even with jobber matches. I think a lot of jobber they haven't put very many jobber matches on TV of late, which is good, and I don't want them to. but they haven't they have had that thought of like, well, even if we have a 5 minute match or something, or a 2 minute match that isn't very like energetic or whatever, well then, or you know, like this is effectively another jobber match in a sense, but it isn't, because we want people to be like still invested in this person or that person or this thing or that thing or whatever else it is. But again, at a certain point, you need to be like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? You know what I mean? Because you cannot keep people's attention. You cannot expect people to just be, you know, sitting there and watching what you're doing every second. And I understand, like, it is a problem of people like tuning out or whatever else it is, and then being like, what happened or whatever else it was, well, we should pay attention type thing. But if it's like all just meaningless, that's where what the issue becomes. It's, I don't have time for things that don't have meaning. And I think that's what a lot of people, perhaps they don't understand the meaning of some of these things as well, but that's where you need to create meaning in your matches. If you're gonna do a chin lock or whatever else it is, or insert any, you know, rest hold here, or whatever else it is, then you need to make that the thing that you're doing. We're doing chin locks tonight. That's what we're doing. Chin lock, chin lock, chin lock, chin lock, chin lock. It's all about the chin lock or whatever else it is. We're all doing the chin lock, or at least the heels are, or whatever. You know, I tag out. I give it to you. You chin lock. You tag out to me. I get him in the chin lock, chin lock, chin lock, chin lock. You know, like, it's becoming a thing of, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is meaning something. It's not just, oh, we don't know what else we're doing. You know, we're going to put him on the ropes, and then we're going to choke him, and then chin lock, and then we're going to choke him and chin lock and choke him and chin lock, or whatever else it is, or whatnot. These different things. It's like, yes, we need to keep doing the same thing, focusing in on the same idea, not just, you know, oh, well, we'll give up on that and we'll just start going for the leg randomly or whatever else it is or whatnot, you know. So, no, if you have something, you need to keep making that thing the thing. You know, if somebody's got a bad leg, if somebody's got a bad arm, if somebody's got, you know, whatever, then you need to be like, okay, cool, let's focus in on that. Let's focus in and focus in and focus in and get it again and again and again. Because every time that I go for the same thing, that is building, like, you know, like a building is building this narrative. It's not just, oh, I happened to go for a chin lock because suddenly the ad break was coming, and we heard that the ad break was coming, or whatever else it was. Okay, even if that was the case, okay, cool. Well, now I need to make that chin lock mean something. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to it again and again and again and again, you know. So, and I'm going to focus on the head. I'm going to focus on like choking, or I'm going to, whatever it is. I'm going to focus on the leg, or on the left leg, or on the left knee, or whatever else it is, on the right knee, on the right ankle, whatever else it is. Doesn't matter where it is. Okay, we picked something up. Now let's focus on it. Let's keep going to that leg. Keep going to that arm. Let's keep going to that back. Let's keep going to that neck. Let's keep going to whatever it was. That was the initial thing. You know, we tripped him up. Okay, cool. And I held him by the leg and then hit him in the guts or whatever else it was. Okay, cool. So we don't really have an exact focus there, but still, you could find one eventually. And that's the thing, you need to find a focus. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Once the heels find their focus, that's what they need to do. You know, they can't do something else. Like, if obviously, like, when you're choking somebody or whatever else it is and all this, they're fighting back and fighting back and fighting back and whatnot. that's the thing where it's like, it's not working, they're too resilient, whatever else it is, da 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 da, that sort of thing. But again, you have to keep going for it. You have to keep going for it. You have to keep building that narrative and that story and that sympathy and all of that stuff. And it's just, unfortunately, like, this really works well in like tag team matches as well. It's very unfortunate that tag team wrestling, that sort of style of thing, is very formulaic in many ways. Like, in even singles matches are very formulaic in a similar way, where it's like, somehow the babyface has to mount the comeback and has to create space and has to sort of, do this thing to overcome the odds, and finally somehow, some way they do, by creating space or by doing something or whatever else it is. So yeah, like those are unfortunately formulaic, but even if they're somewhat formulaic in some ways, at least if that formula results in people paying attention and people cheering and being engaged in what's happening. I mean, yes, there's other factors as well, like people actually caring about the wrestler or whatever else it is and all that sort of stuff. But again, like, if you don't have that, match structure where it's like, we actually made this thing mean something, then people are just going to be like, well, why would you do that? Like, if it was me and I was in there and I was wrestling this person and I had to, do something to them and beat them, I would go back to the thing that I was doing, throughout, that was working, like that was working. So I would have gone back to it and gone back to it and gone back to it, and, like, yeah, same sort of thing. Like, instead of just, we're gonna choke this person in the corner or whatever else it is or whatnot, we're gonna keep antagonizing the partner, or we're gonna keep, the partner from getting a tag or whatever else it is. We're gonna keep, them off the apron. We're gonna keep attacking them from behind. We're gonna keep, running over and knocking them out, or knocking them off, or keep, agitating them into, or goading them into the ring so that we can cheat. We can, do these other different things. So there's not just, that whole thing of like, oh, well, we'll just do this. I guess that's another plan to it, but like, that can be also a separate kind of plan, where it's like, our main plan isn't just to wear this one person down, because we can wear this one person down, but what if this other person comes into the match later on? Well, then we really haven't done anything against them. So we, like, they're fresh as a daisy, so to speak, and we haven't had the time to, to work on them, or to wear them down, or whatever else it is. So we're going to be in a lot of trouble, or whatever else it is, because we're trying to slow the match down and they're trying to speed the match up. And once they get the hot tag, well, the match speeds up. And that's, of course, what's got to happen at a certain point. But like saying, hey, this is our strategy. Our strategy is to keep knocking you off the apron, or keep distracting you to pull you in the ring, or whatever else it is, and then get in the ring behind the referee's back, or whatever else it is, that sort of thing, again and again and again, like, so that's the idea of like this setup, like, or whatever. This is the setup, that's the setup. Unfortunately, there's only so many sort of formulas that you can kind of go with, to an extent. But again, like, at least there are those formulas. And again, if you have somebody that the audience actually cares about, it's like, yeah, cool, great. This is what we want to be having. We don't want to be having people not paying attention or not caring about what we're doing, because again, that's where our business lives and dies. It's not just about creating great matches, which is part of it, hopefully, or better matches, hopefully. It's about creating that connection with the fans and saying, you'll come back again, won't you? Yes, you will, because you want to see more of this. You want to see more great action, not just, oh, they did random stuff. Okay, all right, that's cool. Not to say that they always do that. They do try to do their best with what they're given sometimes, but sometimes a little bit more focus and a little bit more understanding of, okay, we've really got to work a body part here. And sometimes that doesn't work with some people because I don't know whether it's like, that doesn't work for me, brother. My neck's screwed up or whatever. So don't work my neck or whatever. And the whole, and one of the easiest things to do is work the neck or whatever. It's like, well, we can't do that then. So, hey, that screws up a lot of our plans. Or you've got a bad knee. Okay, well, that screws up that plan. So you don't that doesn't, all these don't work for me things, brother, mean that the heels are very inept to be able to do what they want to do and to enact a certain game plan. So the more somebody, I don't want to just say politics, but politics their way out of getting certain things done to them because of injuries or because of whatever else it is, it's like, well, that's not helping the match, that's not helping the crowd, that's not helping, future attendances. So again, that just doesn't help you either. Yes, physically it might not be that great in some ways, but again, maybe that's why you should be saying, well, you know what, we're too hurt, so maybe we need to take some time off, and we need to just come back later, or whatever else it is, or maybe just retire, I don't know. But again, if you're getting to that point where it's like, dude, that doesn't work for me, dude, that, I can't take that move on my neck, or I can't take this move on my knee, or I can't do this, or can't, well, this is starting to look like they can't do anything to you. You know what I mean? So if you're, the only thing that we can do is hit you on the head and hit you on the head and hit you on the head, then that's really not that great for them. They can't get a lot of heat through doing that sort of thing that much. And they can't build to that hot tag that easily, or that comeback moment that easily, without them having as many different tools in their arsenal. There's already so few tools in their arsenal to get to that point, and here you are taking some of those away. Well, now it's time to say, hey, well, we really just can't do it. We shouldn't be in the ring, or we shouldn't be out there making those calls, or we've just got to grin and bear it, or just, accept that this is what it is, and, whatever. So again, that's what the issue is sometimes. I think it's where some people, and I think it's unfortunately somewhat obvious what I'm talking about there in that regard, but at least there are other things out there, and there are other people out there, again, that do seem to do a better job of doing these things, because again, well, they're physically able to do those things, or whatever else it is. So it's like, even if people care about a certain set of individuals or an individual, it's like, well, how can we care more in a match? Especially with certain people, it's like, well, they've got all the care that they could ever have gotten. It's time for somebody else to get that, and that to rub off on somebody else, So again, just another way of sort of saying you need to get to the heart of, well, what does this do for somebody else sometimes? Because again, if it's not doing something for everybody, then it's hurting everybody. Even the person that it is like in theory benefiting, because it's like, oh, well, I don't have to take a bump, I don't have to take this to my neck, I don't have to take this to my knee, or I'm really worried about this injury that I had months ago, or whatever else it was. Dude, if you're in it, well, obviously you can worry about injuries, but the thing is, if you're seriously worried about your injuries, then you need to take whatever time it is off to say, no, all right, I'll take some more time off, or I'll take some more rehab, or I'll take some more whatever to go and heal that injury. Because clearly I'm still, obviously you want to be careful as well, not to say that, but again, if you're too, worried about it, then it's time to be like, dude, let's go rehab, let's, whatever. Let's do something else. Let's do commentary for a while. Let's be in another role. Let's be behind the scenes. Let's do something else. We know this business. We've been in it for whatever years, so we could do other things and be more of a personal coach to the other guys or whatever else it is, rather than being in the ring. Do we really need to be in the ring? I don't know. At a certain point, you need to call that. But so again, like, here you are, especially when you're like, I want to say seasoned wrestler or whatever, you're competing with younger wrestlers. And not to say that there's no place for anyone like that, but again, unfortunately, or whatever, the old has to give way to the new. You know what I mean? People can love people all they want, or really like people all they want, and that's up to them. But and to say, hey, these people, they're back. It's exciting to see them. Here we go. We're gonna get to see what they're gonna do, and where they're gonna go, and why, and all this other stuff. Okay, cool, great. But beyond that, okay, cool. You guys, I want to just say were great, or you were great at a certain point to a certain degree, but times have changed. People have moved on. And even if there is that spark for a little while of, oh, cool, you're back, or whatever else it is, unless you've got great competition and you can keep up with that competition, you're going to start sliding down the ladder, buddy. Because again, you have that, ooh, shiny new toy syndrome. Not just, I have TikTok and the vast majority of the internet in my pocket right here, right now syndrome, which is also a huge problem. But still, like, again, even if the wrestling fan didn't have all of these other distractions of social media and TikTok and all this other stuff, or whatever else it was, that they have other newer, younger, more, I don't want to say more athletic than what they used to be, but more athletic than what they are now wrestlers. So again, like some of that, like, some people complain about the flippy shit or whatever else it is, and I sort of say that too. It shouldn't be all just flippy shit. It should matter and make a difference, and should be, something that people go, holy shit, after whatever, 15 minutes of the guy being beaten up or whatever else it is. He finally got that dive that he was looking for 15 minutes or whatever it was. Now here he is making his comeback or whatever else it is. That's the way I look at it. But still, like, people can do things, like, obviously the X Division is extremely exciting. So again, that's a different kind of thing. But still, like, you still need to have that element of, oh shit, moments. And not just because somebody kicked out of the 11,000th super kicks or whatever else it was, like, those sorts of things. Like, and that can be, like, I think I've talked about it before, leading into that whole idea of protecting finishers, or protecting sort of signature moves, or moves that seemingly should at least finish a match of some sort with some people. But yeah, like, again, the less times that you see somebody, or the more times that you see somebody kick out of any given move, the less times you're gonna believe that move or whatever is going to finish the match. So you've got to see these things, and for the most part, they do a good job of this. But again, yeah, I'm just stating the facts of the situation, and this is the same, like, unfortunately, like, even so, I've said this as well a lot of times, TNA is not that visible in comparison to WWE. Even like some of the more visible names that are in WWE, to the very casual person, no one would know. Like, the very casual people wouldn't know who most of those people are, because they are mostly only interested, or mostly, well, not interested, but they're mostly only really aware of the most big time names. So anyone else, they just go, who the heck is this? Who in the blue hell are you? You know, because they have no idea. They've never seen this, basically never seen this person before. And then unless they're super impressive, like on the level of Stone Cold, The Rock, John Cena, Undertaker, some of those level of guys, even guys like Undertaker, some people go, who in the blue hell is this? Because they've never seen him before, never seen what he's done. They've just kind of maybe heard about him or whatever else it is, maybe. But that's about it. Like, yeah, again, the mega icons are the only people that very casual fans have probably even ever heard of. Beyond, like, you know, like, again, and again, like, most wrestling companies, same thing. No one's really, well, not many of the extremely casual fans have even ever heard of AEW or TNA. They've just heard of WWE. Again, so it's like trying to explain to people, I've explained this to people who are like, oh, you like WWE, do you? And I'm like, no, I don't really like WWE. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I watch another wrestling promotion. And they're like, there's other wrestling promotions? And I'm like, yeah, there's other wrestling promotions or whatever. And sometimes they don't even say other wrestling promotions. They just say other WWE promotions or whatever else it is or something like that. Because they associate so much of, again, what wrestling is with what WWE presents or whatever. And things like that and whatnot. So again, yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot to consider. Again, not just on those other sides, but again, hey, you know, the Bee Gees, I don't know, whatever. The Rolling Stones, this and that, whatever else it is. Taylor Swift is coming to town. This is coming to town. That's coming to town. Hamilton's coming to town. That's coming to town. Whatever else it is coming to town. There's a million other things going on. And in the meantime, people are struggling through this cost of living crisis and are struggling through, you know, a whole litany of other things. So again, you going out there and trying to take something of that space, you've got to realize, again, this is another reason or another argument to be saying, hey, we've got to go into other markets. We cannot be just competing with AEW and WWE for the same, you know, fans in the same arenas and in the same places as what they do. Because again, that just means less fans for us. You know, so again, we need to get, even again, like the smaller town USAs, you know, it makes us look like a smaller more bush league promotion. So we need to go for the bigger arenas, but we can't go for those bigger arenas because it's like, well, then we have to compete with AEW and WWE. So it's like, well, that's a no-win situation. So you might as well get out of the States. You might as well go to, like, even going to Mexico, even going to Canada. That's not a huge difference. But still, at least if you're going to Canada more regularly or Mexico more regularly, well, yeah, sure, you're going to get your American fans that are always going to follow you or whatever else it is and things like that. But again, you will be getting more of those local fans because it's like, well, we don't get WWE very often. We don't get AEW very often. Maybe we'll get them once a year or maybe a couple of times a year. Who knows? But that's about it. If we're dedicated to, you know, Europe, or we're dedicated to like touring around the world and being more of a global brand, doesn't only help us get out there and get our faces out there. It helps us reach different audiences, but it helps us go out there and find those audiences that aren't so lapsed and aren't so saturated with all of these other different sorts of levels of entertainment that they have in the US. So again, you're trying really hard for all of these things, and yet, again, you're saying, well, we'll just keep doing the same thing, you know, and expecting different results. You know, like, you know what they say about that? only basically crazy people, do the same thing and expect different results. So we're going very crazy here to just do the same thing that and not trying to go outside of the box. And maybe you're saying, well, going outside of the box costs money. Well, yes, it costs money, but we're going to be losing money by being in the same saturated market as WWE and AEW, because they're saturating the market with wrestling. And us being, again, and that's another reason why, again, they've moved, more of their pay-per-views are moved away from doing more pay-per-views, because they're like, well, the market is saturated, so we need to lower the number of pay-per-views or events that we do. We just need our TV and our, huge tentpole events, because the more minor events weren't doing very well anyway. So it's like, and the only events that most people would actually get off their, and that we would get off our butts for, were these other bigger events. So again, it all culminates together. It's all of these things coming together, all of these different factors coming together to say why all these different things are happening. It's not just saying, hey, we're doing this. No, you're not just doing that. You're doing that because of this issue, of this level of attention span that people have, because again, that you cannot compete in that market space, or if you want to compete in that market space, that you have to really work at it. So again, saying, hey, that's where we're going to be at. We're going to be competing in these spaces to get to those things and to do those things for this reason or for that reason or whatever else it is. Then, okay, cool, great. This is what it is. We will see where it is at the point that it becomes that. You know what I mean? If you don't shake things up, so to speak, and change what you're doing, which is they have changed some of what they're doing. But again, if you don't, same thing. It's if you don't change what you're doing and you don't realize, oh shit, people are, falling asleep here. Well, that's again the problem. You can't have people losing focus. You've got to keep their attention, because if their attention lags and lacks, well, they'll be like, man, TNA puts on boring ass shows every time that they come, so why am I gonna go? So much for the TNA name, total nonstop snore, more like, things like that. So again, you've got to have that thing of going, not just again, finishers or submissions or I don't want to just say rest holds, but these sorts of things where it's just yeah, obviously this chin lock isn't going to finish the match or whatever else it is or whatnot. But still, these have to have their place. They can't just not exist. But again, it's well, we need to focus more in on it. We need to focus more in on our business strategy by saying, hey, let's look at why we're doing this. Why are we spending all this energy, all this time? And again, if we move away from, more of this, we're going to do a pay-per-view every month or whatever else it is, we can tape maybe one more show every month. So, again, maybe that makes it easier to go live every fortnight or twice a week or whatever else. So again, that's a thing that you can kind of do more, and you say, well, maybe that's not very much dissimilar, or maybe now we can go live every month, more so on a Thursday, and tape a little bit more closer to the date or whatever else it is, sorts of things. So you tape on a Thursday and tape on a Friday, and then you have one episode that, basically is preempted a week in advance, and it's yeah, but still at least that's better than having 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever episodes preempted in advance, because again, that's even when there is a preempted or pre-taped episode, it's like those episodes tend to do less good than episodes that are live on the most front, because again, well, they're taped again. So we've gone through those issues and everyone knows those issues that come with that. But saying, okay, well, we're going to do more of that, and we'll have less of that, like, we'll still have, like, the same thing happening, effectively, but we'll have more live episodes, or we'll have those episodes that are taped, further down the line. We'll have them in another 2 weeks, or whatever else it is, or we'll have them in another whatever number of weeks. So instead of, or maybe we'll try to tape as many different things backstage or whatever else it is, so that, again, we can say, okay, cool, well, the few things that do need to happen in front of the fans, need to be, I don't want to say less consequential, because, like, again, like, a lot of matches happen like that. But again, you want to have more major matches, or try to, on your TV. So again, that people will go, oh shit, Macklin versus Santana, I still want to see that shit. Even if I pretty much know that Macklin's going to lose, I still want to see that shit, because I still, have that level of investment. I still want to see it. And I wanted to see it, and I wish that they actually have saved it for Slammiversary or something else, or whatever else it was. But again, that's what they decided to do. So again, I still wanted to see it. So again, a lot of people did, because again, they did a lot better on that week, because it was like a hotter or stronger, even when it was taped, it was a stronger build in some ways, or whatever, to this match, because a lot of people were still, caught up on the fact that this match didn't really have a proper finish and whatnot, and all of that sort of stuff. So again, people wanted to see that match happen. And I think a few people perhaps were like, even without the spoilers or whatever and things like that, they were hoping for, like, something else, I guess. Or they were hoping that something else would come out of it. So that's where they were at. They like, again, this is appealing to the fans. This is, how do we get these butts in the seats? This is how do we get these eyes on the product? This is how do we get, keep eyes on the product again. So again, it's not just thinking, okay, we'll do, again, and what other wrestling is there on a Thursday night? None, because, realistically, is anyone, silly enough to think, Thursday night wrestling will work that well? And I don't even think Monday night wrestling works that well, but still, and same thing for Wednesday night, to be honest, but as well, again, it's I think Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night are the better nights. But then it's if you're on a Saturday or a Sunday night, it's that's really tough, because that's pay-per-view time. And even Friday, in some ways, you could think, oh, well, that could be pay-per-view time. So it's there's no super great time to be on in wrestling in some ways, because it's you especially right now, especially in the US, and that right now, it's there's so much competition and whatnot, and you again, I think NWA recently got a deal there, and it's I don't know the details of it, but I think they renewed another deal of some sort. They lost their deal, whatever it was, a few months back or whatever it was, because of James Mitchell smoking crack or whatever else it was, and all that stuff. And then now somehow they've got another deal of some sort. I don't know what much details about it, but still they've got apparently some new deal or whatever else it is. But still, how are they going to do that? How are they going to go with that? Because again, there is so much wrestling on, and again, there is only so much space for so much stuff. So not only, again, I talk about the problems that TNA has. They would have just as many problems, if not more problems, as competing with like all the other indie, not all the other indie promotion, but like that everybody has. We have to compete with the indies. We have to compete with, the major networks and such and whatnot, and the major players, so to speak. And again, even that is a lot, and not just alone. Again, football, basketball, whatever else is on, Kylie Minogue, this and that, whatever else it is, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things on. Your kid's got a football match. Well, now I've got to go to the football match, or whatever else it is. Their own pursuits, their own routines, their own dance recitals, their own things. So again, when does wrestling get a chance? When do you get that chance to, again, and you've got to breed that culture of, you've got to come and see it live. It's different live. The atmosphere in the arena is different live. There's a whole lot more to seeing it live than just seeing it, especially if you're in the area or whatever else it is, than seeing it on TV. But of course, if you can't come and you can't see it live, then you at least need to see it on TV, because you want to see not just the craziness, but the hijinks or the shenanigans or whatever else that people are getting into. And then again, like every week, and then when the big pay-per-view comes, that's going to set the war to settle the scores, so to speak, or whatever else it is, you want to be there. You want to be there, front and center, and get an autograph and get your merch and get this and get that and whatever else it is. So again, getting all these ducks in the row, so to speak, is a lot of work. So I never want to just paint a single brush and say, these guys are bad bookers, or these guys don't know what they're doing, or whatever else it is. I have said that sometimes here and there and whatnot, and said, hey, I wish I had the pen, or whatever else it is, and things like that. But again, they do the best. I hope at least they do the best with what they have, what they can. Because again, that is the only way that not only this company, but you are going to continue to be successful in this wrestling business. If you continue to book stuff, or you continue to make stuff that people don't want to see, then it's like, well, you're going to be out on your ear, buddy. The more success and the more positive and the better stuff that you bring to the table for people to see, the better. And the same thing for the wrestlers. Like, the better that you do in your matches, the better that you do at your promos, the more people are going to want to see you. Whether you're going to stay in TNA, or whether you're going to go to WWE or AEW or wherever else it is, or whatever else it is. Whether you're like what I was looking to do, where I was like looking to bring people down along with me on a journey, like saying, hey, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to run that promotion, and I'm going to, be there and be a big attraction there, and da-da-da-da. So I hope you all follow me there. I knew most people probably wouldn't, but still, like, I'd hope that some people would, or whatever. So that again, like, when you have that transition of, here comes this new person, okay, cool, there they go. Now, hopefully, they're a bigger star by having beaten me or having worked with me or whatever else it is. Now, hopefully, they're on to the next thing, and all of that. So again, hopefully, we can all get that from this, and hopefully we can make, again, I haven't seen very much hype for Slammiversary yet. I want to say this as well. Actually, I might put this in another video, actually. So be on the lookout for another video about, like, the regarding Slammiversary having no build podcast that I did a while back, because I want to discuss it. So guys, please tune in for that, because I know you'll hopefully enjoy it at least. And yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you'll join me again in another one.